welcome to Coffee and Conversation. I am Dr. Loving with YOUnion. I'm the Chief Trust Officer and the Executive Director of Education. I am joined by Chris Montonya, who is one of our advisors and works in the veteran space. Chris, if you could briefly introduce yourself so that people could know who is behind that shining smile and beautiful jewelry and everything else you got going on. Come on, Chris. Come on.
I knew you were through the first 5 minutes. I knew it was going. So Chris Montoya. So I'm the president of the Heroes Foundation. So been working in the veteran community for the last 5 to 7 years dedicatedly to help from reentry programs, working with companies to develop more formalized structures within recruitment and retention of military veterans and military spouses. So happy to be here as well.
Excellent, nice to have you. And seated next to him, we have the wonderful and beautiful Jen Schaumburg, who is the head of all things customer related at YOUnion. Allow the people to know who you are, Jen.
Hey everybody, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you guys all coming and joining us in May. So I'm Jennifer Schaumburg. I'm with YOUnion. I am also a community partner with the Heroes Foundation and focus in all things customers and technology and automation. So we're glad to have you all here.
All right, thank you, Jen. And next to Jen is Kevin. Kevin is the master of all things hat and accessory related. Good luck to anybody trying to keep up with this man when it comes to the top of your head game. Hello, Kevin. Let the beautiful people out there know who you are. You gotta give that quick intro. Everyone's waiting.
Wow. Kevin Belcher. I am the first vice president of the Veteran Employee Resource Group at the City of Dallas. Former veteran as well, Army. Woo woo.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin, for coming. And now we have the person of honor, the individual who we have come to find out more about as we extend our search, looking for the iconic women and iconic people who are out there. Dr. K,
Welcome.
researcher,
Thank you.
scholar, teacher, wearer of awesome jewelry, doer of cool things. Let the people know who you are and set them up for all of the fun we're about to have.
And Doctor, don't forget the red shoes.
The red shoes.
Oh my word. I feel like I'm on Wendy Williams. All right, so I'm Dr. K. I am a United States Navy veteran, and I want to just extend my sincerest appreciation to Chris for doing what you've done for veterans for so long, and you for being a brother in arms. I currently teach at Southern New Hampshire University. I, again, am a United States Navy veteran, and I also host the Doctor's Corner podcast show. I'm President Emeritus of the Veteran Employee Research Group, and it is a pleasure to be here, and I hope I have enough good fodder to share.
Well, thank you, and it's not lost on me that in Ruby Slippers you were like, and you, and thank you. It felt very Wizard of Oz, which I loved, because we're going to a new and special place here, y'all. Let's talk with you, Dr. K, about your past. What brought you to where you are? Tell us about, like, how did you get involved with the Navy in the first place?
You said we only have an hour.
Yeah. There you go. Just tell the good story.
Part one.
Right.
Yes.
All right, well, part one, my mom, I was raised in a single family home, my mom, but my dad was very present. They didn't like each other too much, but maybe for one night.
You're here.
And I'm here.
There you go.
But growing up, I grew up with boys because my sister joined the military maybe when I was about 9 or 10. She joined the military. So my two brothers hung around with me. So I was growing up a tomboy. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I got into the wrong stuff, the wrong crowd. Believe it or not, I was in a gang.
Oh, wow.
At 13.
Did not know that.
At 13 years old. And so my mom, a praying mom, a father that was prior military, they was like, we're not having that. So the pattern was we sending them all to the military. So once my sister went, then I was the next one to go.
Okay.
And so I went to the military. They kept me in push-up position. They kept me in push-up position.
Did you get to choose the branch?
I did sister duty because she was in the Navy. So I was like, well, I'll go to the Navy.
Okay.
And the way that story happened was the day that I was graduating, I meant to bring my report card because I graduated with a .833. The day that I was graduating, June 12th, I was walking across the stage in my gangster look. I had on some high top Adidas, you know, and I had on like a little skirt that matched my best friend. I'm walking across the stage, and there's a gentleman at the edge of the stage, and I didn't know a lot of backdoor deals had occurred. So when I walked across the stage doing my little gangster thug stuff, I can actually dance, y'all.
That breakdown will happen later. It's good to know.
He stood at the end of the stage, he opened up his paper, and he said, your ASS is mine. They did not allow me to go back home because my mom has signed me into the military. I knew about some of it, I was ready to go, didn't know it was gonna happen on the day of my graduation. Wow. So I went down to MEPS, and then the story unfolds from there.
Well, you can't leave us there. I'm sorry. This is a beautiful start. Hey, so off the stage, and then was the bus right there?
The bus was out, well, it was a car.
And they just immediately took you to, okay. All right. So they were serious. Parents out there,
Yeah.
just a little idea for you if you're wondering, hey, how do you get your kid to know that you're serious about make the bus right there when they get off the stage? You know, there's no talk of what's happening after this. No IHOP, no nothing. Okay, this is great. So now after you've gone and you said, what were you thinking in that car? Do you remember what you were thinking in the car?
That was tricky.
Oh, so you were about to break down the Navy. They were about to show them. Okay.
Yeah, but I belonged to the government at that time because I did sign. I did not know that the day of my departure was graduation day.
Wow.
I had things to do. I got people to see, folks to jump. I mean, I had.
Oh wow, you had plans. You had some retribution planned, and then plans
go straight.
thwarted. Okay.
I mean,
So this was the U.S. government stepping in for lots of people's benefit, is what you're
it's
saying.
gonna be my getaway. You know?
Oh wow. Okay, so you plan to mash up the place and then ride out on U.S. military equipment.
Yes.
Okay, I get this. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so in that car, while you're disappointed about your plans and the fact that you know, we're gonna beat some people up at graduation parties, obviously that was gonna be a lot of fun. As you started to make that transition into the military, you said push-up position. What was that like for you to have such structure placed in and around you from a place where it seemed like you were able to move around a little bit more freely and do what you wanted to do?
That's a great question. In the car, he talked to me very rough because that's kind of like what I was used to.
Okay.
And it's not that I had a bad mom. My mom was loving. She was a prayerful mom. But she was tired by the time she had me. I think she had me in her late 30s. And so I just ran with the boys. So he talked to me pretty rough. And he actually kind of scared me. So I was a little nervous because I didn't have my brothers to, you know, let him know who I was. You know, and shout out to my brother Tyrone and my other brother Sydney.
Hey, Tyrone and Sydney.
It's the Erica Badu Tyrone too.
All right. The one exactly that she was talking about. Is he the one? His way and her cousin way, and sometimes her homeboy way. All that pain. Is he who put Erica through it? Okay. So sorry, you guys. So I don't want to throw you off track.
It's okay. So he talked to me kind of rough, and I acquiesced. I humbled out really quickly, but he didn't know how quickly I was going to humble. So we got to MEPS, and they did me some type of way, and I believe it's because they knew who I was going to be at that time. So they were making sure that restructuring happened immediately.
Okay.
So on the airplane, for some reason, I remember being brought to the back of the plane and made to sit on the floor. And I don't know if that was FAA allowed, but they were letting me know I didn't deserve a seat.
Wow.
Whereas I used to be at the head of, I mean, I did the most, so they were letting me know I didn't deserve a seat. So push-up position I did on the plane. They were showing me how to do push-up position. I sat at the back of the plane. When we got to Orlando, Florida, none of us got a seat. We all sat on the floor. So that restructuring happened immediately.
And so there's the restructuring of the actions and activities. Do you remember when that structure and discipline started to take hold in you?
I did a podcast show, and that show was done with a colleague of mine, and for some reason I did it about 2 years ago. I can't remember her name, but the title of it is The Slaves Were There. She highlighted that one of the things that the slave masters did to break you mentally is they take you from what you're familiar with. So of course, when they took me from where I was familiar, of course I did what they told me to do. I'm in Orlando, Florida. Had never been in Orlando, Florida before. I was in a compound. So we had a compartment with a room full of racks being twin beds. You had a little, what is the little drawer called?
Locker, foot locker.
Yeah, we had a name for it. You had a little bitty drawer, so everything you thought you were coming with or thought you needed to fit in that little bitty drawer.
Wow.
So they rearrange what you used to, so that they can make you into who you are. The difference between slavery and what the military did for me is they built me into a soldier, whereas the slavery breaks you down.
Okay, excellent. And so in terms of the things that they did that you can point to and say, besides just changing things, hey, when did you start feeling lifted up? Like, were there some leaders in the military that inspired you and you say, you know what, I can do this. This is for me, and this is good. This is good to me too. Can you think of some times and some people that made that happen or click for you?
Petty Officer Evans. She zeroed in on me because, they talk. The commanders, they talk. It was like, she was in a gang, she did this, she did that. And they talked about the different people. So they knew she must got some leadership. My name then was Tricky, right? Because I was kind of cute when I was little, right? But I was the first one to swing. I was the first one to get in. So they called me Tricky. Because you never knew. You would not know that I'm going to be the one to hit somebody.
There you go, folks. Always have a cagey one that looks cute in your gang. A little Pikachu that can come with that left hook or that right crouch from the side. Keep everybody honest. All right, Dr. Tricky.
Hanging out with Dr. K from here on out.
It's tricky from now on.
Dr. T.
So Evans, as it was, I'm sure you never dared to just say Evans. You had all sorts of preamble before it. You were Petty Officer Evans. What was it about Petty Officer Evans that said to you, like, real interest, real care, real, like, I need to consider what she's talking about and get in this and do it to the best of my ability?
Now remember, they took me from where I was comfortable. They put me in a place where they gave orders. They told me when to eat, when to drink, where to go, when to work out, what to wear. They gave you these birth control glasses if you need it, and they called them birth control glasses because there was nothing pretty about them.
Oh, I was about to say, my anatomy lessons. Okay, go ahead. The technology in the military is really something.
It's real.
Is the seat being behind? Okay, now I get it. Okay, just because nobody was gonna.
Right.
Okay, yes.
Yes. They had me take the contacts out. They gave me my birth control glasses, and so they're ordering pretty much your steps. They letting me know, I'm your God, I'm your mom, I'm your dad, I'm them two brothers that you just left too. So yes, it strips you. So after they're mean to you, or what you think is mean to you, they're breaking you down. They're breaking you down to build you back up.
Yeah.
And she was the first one that came to me and she said, you're a leader by nature, right? And I was like, yeah, after y'all did all of this to me, I am a leader. So then she began to pour into me military leadership, honor, courage, commitment, respect, integrity. And then I became the cadence caller. That's what they gave me. It was like, we're going to let you be the cadence caller. So left, one right, one left, right, left. That was me.
Oh, you're pretty good at that. Okay, all right. That made me want to move. Okay.
So I was thinking, I get to coordinate everybody's steps. So you begin to appreciate things that you don't. So here I am leading a cadence for 76 women. I'm in the middle, I'm like right starboard. And I'm standing there and I'm singing and everybody is on my beat. So they made me appreciate something so small but yet so big. So that's when I knew that I got a different essence that I needed to walk in.
Yeah.
And then they gave me my Bible. Then they let me know, okay, let me introduce you to this God. Because I'm only going to take you so far.
Okay.
And then that's where my journey really began.
Okay, excellent. So the things, the skills that you learned there, besides just general leadership, was there anything that you were like, I'm really good at this, that you learned in the Navy? Was there just something that you were like, man, far and away, I excel at doing this and I didn't know I would? Or you just knew, you were like, I don't know, I'm pretty good at everything. And you just like, I'm surprised that I'm also great at everything in the Navy.
No. I didn't see a lot of my skill sets until I joined the military. Because I never went to school. I was in a gang. I was doing too much other than a .833. So it's obvious I wasn't applying myself. It was until my mom was like, you know, I don't build children to fail, and I got a God bigger than all of this.
Okay.
So it was my mom's faith, that seed that was planted. I was using it for the wrong, and she was instrumental in making sure that I used it for the right. The military was the next big instrument. So in there, not only was I the cadence caller, but I also was on drill. So actually, does anybody have a rifle? Anybody?
At the moment?
At the moment?
Nah, this is Texas.
Everybody!
Surprisingly, no.
Let me go to the car right quick.
Right, I mean, it wouldn't take us long to materialize one. But
If you could saw everybody's facial expressions. Sorry, guys. You guys are on camera online, but if you could have saw the facial expressions. But I'm really good with a rifle. I can
Twirl.
Yes, I'm pretty good. And my son, I have a 28-year-old son that joined the Army. He was also on drill when he was a ROTC. So I learned that there's a lot of things that if I apply myself, I'll do well. I just have to apply myself in the good way.
oh, I love that. And so it sounds like you gained some fundamental skills, respect for yourself, some structural elements to keep you straight in ways that can make you successful, which is all great, but then there's always a transition, right? And so you had that success and you got into a place where you felt good about what you were doing, you felt like a team member, you felt built up, you felt like a leader, and then at some point your military service ends. And so what did that feel like for you? Just the fact that you knew that the military service portion of what you designated of your life was coming to a close. How was that for you?
Okay, so in summation, serving 8 years active duty United States Navy, I made it to E5. I had just PNA'd or passed but not advanced, E5. And I was serving on the USS Gunston Hall, which is a ship out of Virginia Beach. The military basically gives you your orders. They provide your housing if you're living on base. They make sure that you pay all your bills. They make sure, they even get at you if you caught cheating. In the military, oh, you did what? Yeah, they do not play. They make sure you operate with integrity.
Okay.
So here it is, all of this structure. And I was doing very well. But I decided that I wanted to use something called my Guard 3. And my son was about 4 or 5. And I had to go on another tour, which means you go on a Westpac or you go on a med cruise. And you leave for 6 months. You leave your family for 6 months. And I didn't want to do it. So I took advantage of my Guard 3, which is an educational out. You can use your Guard 3 where you're still serving in the military, but you're advancing your education so that you can come back. Well, I decided I wasn't going to go back. So I finished up my education with my bachelor's degree. Well, while I'm out, I was honorably discharged July 1999. I discharged. And I discharged in Virginia Beach. So they give you like a little severance package in the civilian world, but you get your final pay. What's their final pay called? I can't remember. Okay, never mind.
It's been too long.
It's the last money, though,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Your last monies, you get, and at that time it was only 3 days of TAPS, which is Transition Assistance Program. You get 3 days.
Don't get me started.
And that 3 days was nothing for what I encountered. So when I got out of the military, I went back home to my mom, and she was really happy to see me. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna take all of this leadership stuff I learned, and I'm knife edging people. I need you to do this and this. And you're like, wait a minute, you wanna? What is your
This
hand
is
doing?
Starbucks, ma'am. Yes.
I took my first job at the city of Milwaukee, working in the Violations Bureau, where we were taking citations when people get parking citations. It's a little small, little office space. And I was working there part-time while going to school, because at this time the military still kind of was pegging me and making sure that I was doing, good. I still had my Chief Gillespie out there making sure that I was doing well. I did not have any further obligation at this point. So, ran into this young lady. She was one of the supervisors, and she was really mean. She was really mean, and I knew her meanness had nothing to do with building me up. So, her and I kind of got into it. Tricky came up.
Uh-oh.
And I told
Tricky is
her,
always there.
Did you swing on her?
no, but I told her, you don't know me. I will blow you up. She was like, oh. Beep boop bop beep bop beep. We just got a bomb scare.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Oh.
I just served 8 years honorably in the United States Navy.
Yeah.
And here them people come to get me because I said something inappropriate for the civilian world. Now, if I had said that to him, he would be like, all right, well, let me get you some X, Y, and Z to help. But for a civilian, they was like, I'm going to get you, and I'm going to tear everything about you down.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tough.
That is
right?
very tough.
Because you used a term
Yes.
that was appropriate for the military and appropriate for where you had been successful, and had that type of carriage of yourself and standing up for yourself made sense, and the terminology was fine. And now you're in a new world where people are doing things that seem less than honorable. It seems like they're not operating with integrity. And they also have this level of unfamiliarity with the way in which you have been really successful. How did you take that? How were you able to process?
And do you think it still exists to this day? The disparity between vernacular from what you're used to or the experience you have to civilian like myself. I've never served, so some of that might be lost on me. Do you think it still, based on y'all's experience, still exists today?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we as soldiers transitioning back into the real world, because our minds literally have been programmed for military. There's a term that's called, in our military mind, this is our thinking, this is how we were programmed. And so many people struggle coming out of the military because they bring their military mind into the world, back into the world, and they never make that transition and leaving the military part alone. And that's where you have a lot of people that really struggle once they transition back into the real world, because you're different. You've been programmed different.
Yep.
You've been taught different. Don't get me wrong, the skills, all of the things that we learned as soldiers, excellent. My work ethic, I know it had to come from military. Of course, I've never been shy of work, but I was the type of person, I was programmed to the fact that I cannot take off. To this day, literally over 30 years, I have never called in on employment, literally. Never called in. You can look at my attendance. Only time I'm actually absent is on vacation or some kind of special event. Never take just personal time for, unless it's like I say, vacation or something, because I'm always there. I'm always there. It came from my mind being programmed, because you literally would get punished if you tried to say I'm sick, I don't feel like getting up this morning and miss PT.
Yeah.
You can do it, but you're gonna get paid. You're gonna get punished for it.
Yeah.
So it's naturally you go.
So it's interesting because you point to all those positives, and then I guess there's those transition elements. Makes me think about my grandfather, who his entire life, PT in the morning is
Right.
what he was saying.
That's right.
PT in the morning.
That's
Nothing
right.
was fixed or clean. It was squared away.
That's
He
right.
used to have, and so I would be a little kid
Wow.
saying these things, and grown-ups would be like, "Wait, who? Oh, somebody military around him."
To
Yeah.
this day, like I get made fun of because I'm yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I'll go through a drive-through at Chick-fil-A with a 16-year-old working. I'm yes ma'am, no ma'am, and I get teased all. But my childhood was boot camp. My dad was a Marine, so my childhood was very structured. It was very professional. It was very so yeah. I mean,
Yes. Yes. No, and it's funny because some of that terminology, especially "no ma'am," sometimes can be met these days with resistance, because there's this idea of sexism in the workplace being expressed through that type of terminology. And so there are difficulties, there are transitions. If you could point to some of the transition difficulties you might have had as you moved from military service into the corporate side of things, and what it was that propelled you towards where you came to with your research and other professional interests.
Yeah, like how you
became the
and you
superhero.
overcame them.
Yes, this is the superhero
Because I'm assuming
story.
there's not a class on how to transition mentally and.
That is a great segue into this.
Yeah.
When I made that comment to that civilian employee, and this was my first civilian job after being in the military for 8 years, society didn't recognize that. They did not recognize it. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I end up having to go through the entire criminal justice system. So at that particular point in time, I was working on a bachelor's in communications. I decided, with what's happening to me at my civilian job, I'm going to pick up criminal justice. So now I'm being taught what I'm getting ready to go through. And that was just the insight that was instilled in me at that particular point in time, that you getting ready to go on a journey, and this journey is not favorable. Pick up criminal justice and rely heavily on Christ. So I got out of the military with about 15 grand. By the time these attorneys got done with me, I had about $235 remaining. It was an entire year that I had to fight I think it was a felony, bomb scares. They gave me
Terroristic threats,
and it was, sentencing day. Because remember, I got a 5 or 6 year old son. I'm going through this. I'm trying to go to school because I'm not missing no days. I got a degree to get. While y'all persecuting me, I got stuff to do. So relying on Christ was a big thing. So this entire year, I'm going to court session after court session after court appearance. Finally, we get to sentencing. I took a plea because they made me feel like I was guilty. Because I said this to this girl who had a less than stellar work ethic. And I end up taking 12 months of probation, and the judge was saying this to me. I was like, please don't pass out. Please don't pass out. She started rattling off all this stuff. 12 months of probation, 75 hours of community service, $898 fine, anger management course, in alcohol and drug abuse training. What? And I had only been out of the Navy for about 9 months. Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
There you go. There you go.
So I did everything the judge ordered me to do because that's what we programmed to do. You give us an order, we comply. Did everything that I was supposed to do. I did the 12 months. The detective that arrested me, I decided after I got my bachelor's, I want to work for the police department. Got the job. Guess who my supervisor was?
Okay.
The detective that arrested me.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
But you see, now this is God. This has nothing to do with anything else. I worked for him. He ended up writing me a character reference letter. He was so regretful that he had to follow the law, the letter of the law. Then I applied for the FBI, passed all 6 phases of it, but because I had that misdemeanor now, I wasn't able to go in with the FBI. So that impacted me during that time for a very long time. So I said, I need more than this bachelor's degree in communications. I gotta understand these civilians. No offense. I gotta understand these civilians. So I decided to pursue a master's degree in management, which now is teaching me more how to
That's
work
right,
with.
No, somebody's.
T said favor ain't fair.
There's interaction going on here.
Yeah, they're watching. They're talking.
This is the real experience, just like a movie. Holla on out if you got
We'll
something
see
to
you
say.
next
Okay.
month. T.
Yeah, favor ain't fair. You're right. You're absolutely right. So I said I have to figure out how to work with civil. I'm going to go for another degree because I know that there's tools out there. But see, that's the thing that veterans we don't pursue hard enough. The resources are there, but in the military they give them to you. In the civilian world, you got to seek them.
Yeah.
So I said, let me go and get another degree because it seems like these civilians are appreciating this education, and it'll help me better communicate when I'm angry, when I feel some type of way. So I pursued a master's degree right after my bachelor's in management. And I got that from Cardinal University. My undergrad was from University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Master's was from Cardinal Stritch University, which is a Franciscan college, which is doing really well. And I'm thinking about applying an adjunct there as well. But that's what I did to further being successful in the civilian sector.
Now, when you started studying management and like just classic business management, what were the differences that you saw between the way in which business is handled versus the military's way of handling things?
If you knife edge a civilian, you are liable to lose all your religion. Knife edges, do this, take care of this, X, Y, and Z this. This is knife edging, and it's offensive. I didn't know that. In the military, you can do it and tell somebody to drop. It's push-up position. You do it to a civilian, it's not okay. So the authoritarian leadership style does not work well in the civilian sector. And you don't get that in 3 days of TAPS. On a side note, I'm appreciative to the Department of Defense because now TAPS is no longer 3 days, it's 1 year.
Really?
And that's something that is very much needed in the for veterans or for military going into the civilian sector. It's very much needed. So I'm very grateful.
Do they submit the paperwork to transition out now 12 months before? Or?
Yeah. You got a recruiter working with you your entire military career. So as you transition from place to place, they'll tell you your reenlistment date is this. Do you want to reenlist or not? And even when you get like a medical discharge or get something that's not scheduled, they'll still work with you. Prior to 2020, I was the area chair for Employer Supportive Guard and Reserve. And so that is an organization of DOD that talks about, and it works with the companies basically, trying to get the companies to understand the differences between the military and the civilians and just trying to build a rapport. But I did that for maybe about 2 years. But yes, they do work with you. They do let you know, okay, well, we're going to put you in TAPS now. And it's mandatory. Isn't it mandatory? It was
Yes.
it was mandatory then,
Right.
but this year I don't know if that's mandatory because I haven't been in. I only learned that because I was serving as the area chair for ESGR.
Okay, so now that you've gotten these management skills and knowledge, and you started and you're combining it with what it is that you've learned in the military, and then at some point you decided to go and get even more school. Tell us about the fact that you can't get away from this school addiction. No, my name's Jamu. I'm also a school addict. I did the same thing. So what made you decide, you know what, I want to finish the game, get the ring, and go ahead and take it all the way to where they're calling me Dr. K?
I decided to do that because the civilian sector is still confusing to me. I mean, I didn't disclose where I worked, did I?
No.
Oh, okay.
I haven't asked probing questions like that. I'm trying to leave that dignity.
In the workplace, I still find leaders can still be unethical.
Okay.
They still can be unfair and inconsistent. And I struggle with that because if you are my supervisor, or if you are like, let's say a VP, and you decide, I'm gonna go ahead and get Shanice because she my niece and I'm gonna pay her 6 figures. But Shanice have absolutely no training. No offense against folks with a GED, but she got her GED, which means she didn't do the regular high school education training component. But she's leading a department of 250 people. She's in her office with her door shut. She don't talk to you. She don't do performance evaluations with you. She don't communicate effectively with you. She don't give you goals. She's awful. But how is it that she can make 6 figures? It confuses me. So my doctorate degree is in Human Resource Management. I decided that I needed to understand that it's not because it's the way it's supposed to be done. It's because this is just how they do it.
Okay.
And it takes a little bit more for you to learn when you're stuck on having your biblical principles. You're stuck on trying to do the right thing. You're stuck on being honorable. You're staying true to your commitment of loyalty and integrity. But you just gotta realize people gonna do what they gonna do. So I pursued human resource management so that I can be better at accepting things that I cannot change, but operate in my professionalism, operate in my dignity, because I still got people watching me. And I must say the folks that I've had the privilege of serving as either their supervisor, I still serve them. I don't ever want to be so high up here that I forget who I am and where I came from. Because there's this gonna pull you in, because there's something in a very, very famous book that was written many years ago that was God inspired, that says those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. So how can I serve you?
Okay.
I think it's fascinating that you admitted that from a transparency aspect that you're still confused, because statistics have shown women veterans are getting degrees at 50% or more, which is high, but they're still significantly unemployed against males. What kind of advice would you give somebody that is transitioning that, or maybe that is trying to decide, am I going to be an entrepreneur, am I going to employment? What kind of advice would you give that you're still learning, you're still kind of growing, and you're still educating yourself?
Keep Christ the head of your life, because what's for you is for you. Walk in your purpose, because the earth needs a lot more good people, and they need people to do the right thing. They need people to do the right thing. So continue to walk in your purpose, because quite honestly, I don't know if I'm where I'm supposed to be, but I'm gonna continue seeking Christ, because he's gonna get me there. I know that I am oftentimes rejected because of the color of my skin. I know that. And because it's happened to me from the time I got out of the military, Because I feel like if I was European American, I would have gotten more like a, don't say that. But instead, I was treated like I was selling dime bags at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Dime bags is drugs.
And it's no longer in.
It turns out you can't buy much with $10 these days, but it's all right. No, it just shows that you've been out the game a while. This is good. This is good. She's fully reformed,
Has not made a reappearance in a while.
Back in the day when she was doing it, you could get something done with $10, maybe even $5. That was had nickel
I remember the
bags.
nickel
I
bags.
know,
right?
Chris, you probably have some other questions, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do, to piggyback off that, because I want to get into, so, the last 5 years have been more of a consultant with most companies. A lot of comes with is diversity in military solutions. What do you think from a corporate perspective they need to understand? What do you think companies that have diversity programs, that have military and veteran programs, need to know from a recruitment aspect, but also from a retention and inclusive aspect?
We talk about, and Chris, that's a great question, because from a human resource management standpoint of view, and again, I've studied all type of theories, but in having a doctorate and a master's and a bachelor's, you have to apply it, not just know about it. In corporate recruitment, if you're going to bring on veterans, do what Service King is doing. I did a show with Service King.
Luter.
Yes.
Love her.
Yes. Yes. I
that's-
did a
that's my
show.
best friend.
Is she your best friend?
I love Lakeisha.
She is amazing.
She is awesome, and now she's director of all which is diversity with Service King, which is much well deserved.
Good for her.
She is doing great things, especially in the military community with her salute to service.
Good for her. She's doing, Service King is doing an amazing job, because there is a difference, and Kevin talked about it. There's a difference. In the military, they literally they take care of everything around you, but they program you to be a soldier, to fight. They program you. So when you come out of that, you got the resources, but there's no transition piece. And in the civilian sector, they don't get that. They try to treat you like, I don't know, you gotta help me with this one.
Okay. So, in the transition piece, there are some resources, again, veterans don't tap into them as they should.
Or the dots aren't connected for them.
They're not connected.
They're there,
exactly.
but they're not.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's very important to know your go-to. Your go-to is the Veterans Resource Centers. Really, a lot of information is on myhealthyvet.com. It's literally everything that you need to know about transition, how to convert your military experience to civilian experience. Everything is right there at a one-stop shop. But many people just don't go there. We talk about the women in entrepreneurship. They have a whole women's center, a women's center, a military women's center there for mental illness, mental health, health and wellness, how to become an entrepreneur, all of the tools you need, the mentorship programs that they have for women. It's just a host of information right there on the website. You just have to go in and find it. And that's the part I think that in most cases people miss, because there are a lot of people out here that's lost. They really don't know. I tell people every day, I guide people all the time to the websites and say, hey, look, this, and this, that. All of this information is here. How to get a house, the process that it takes, the whole 9 yards. You're paying $1,700 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, and you could be in a house with a mortgage paying $1,200 a month.
Basic economics.
Yes.
Not.
But it's all there. We just have to tap into the resources.
So veterans tapping into the resources, but to your point, Chris, remember earlier I stated that in the military, they don't play. If you're cheating, and that's your personal life, they correct it. In the civilian world, there's no correction. So we're watching, we've been programmed to do the right thing, say the right thing, be at the right places, be on time. We're programmed to do the right thing, but in the civilian world, they're not making correction. When we see that, it makes us so uncomfortable because now it's forcing us to operate in dysfunction. It's forcing us to operate, like for instance, I could have a supervisor that's disrespectful. I could have a supervisor that always is abrupt and cruel and mean and unfair and inconsistent. Like I said, somebody that won't even sit with you and do your performance evaluations, okay? Who's supposed to correct her? I'm a sitting duck. Where's my growth? Where's my development? So if I were to say anything to companies, do the right thing. You have on your website how you're ethical and you're making sure that you have fairness and consistency in the workplace. Do it. Put somebody that's strong enough in that position to address the chief of staff if they have to.
Wow. So that's what I was going to ask you.
Entrepreneurship.
You identified Lakeitra Luter, and she has Lakeitra Houston that she just recruited from the military in the recruiting team. Why do you think they're different? Why did you acknowledge Service King and kind of their program? And what can other companies learn that are in their infancy or maybe from a recruitment aspect? Because we've always talked about veteran friendly versus veteran ready. A company that a lot of companies that I work with, they're so early in their stage of it becomes a recruiting strategy. Until we can start developing the data, until we can start developing a framework, which isn't a bad thing. But how, from a maturity aspect, from a company's kind of ecosystem and landscape, what can they learn from Service King from your perspective?
Okay, so let me address that, but I have another thought, and I hope it doesn't fleet and run away from me. I love the fact, or the distinguishing factor, that you said veteran friendly versus veteran ready. For companies all over the world, Service King recognizes the veteran as a veteran, in that they know that this person has some expertise, subject matter expert in some areas where they're really, really strong, but recognize that they're not perfect, and by no stretch of the imagination is anybody perfect, but they recognize that, and they find out what their needs are. They don't have that template that they have for the civilian sector that they're going. They find out specifically what the veterans' needs are. Some veterans are actually homeless. Some veterans are actually dealing with maybe going through a divorce. We handle it different, and I can't put what that gap is. Why do we handle it so different from the way civilians are? Because I don't think anybody is better than anybody, but we just handle it different, and we were programmed to handle it different. Service King speaks directly to the veteran. What are your needs? They have programs not just for the veteran, but for the spouse.
Very true, very true.
Yep.
And it's like they make sure that we will do whatever you want us to do. We will do it, and we'll do it to the best of our ability, but they take care of their needs specifically. And that's something that corporate America, they don't recognize, that we're just different. They want to be equitable, but they're equitable to be fair and consistent across the board, but you got a case-by-case basis. And I hope that doesn't sound cyclical or circular, but the truth of the matter is, when you serve in the military, you're different. You're set apart. And the only way that you find out what that company or what that individual needs to make them successful is you have that conversation with them. What is it that you need? How do we make you successful? What were you going to say?
No, I said I think corporate America, though, has made some great strides.
Sure.
And across certain companies, like you mentioned. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Because we're getting down to the wire. I asked the audience if they have any questions.
Okay.
So, you told us about the good, the bad, how you overcame. Talk to me about entrepreneurship and women and military, non-military. Have you worked with inspiring, mentoring, guiding any entrepreneurs? Because
I need to do better.
Oh, so I'm signing you up
Well,
then.
great. It's called an opportunity. That's all that is.
So we just uncovered, seriously.
No, that's good. That's a good thing. I think that the skill sets that
She said we got to do better, and I'm like, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, it's just the natural evolution of all of the things that you're doing. You're helping these individuals manage their way through these companies. You're helping these companies manage and understand the individuals you're working with. And then there's that next point of that individual who wants to expand and impact the world in their own way. And the skill sets that you have in those organizational structures that you can help them apply to their own lives and their own tasks and their plans for their businesses can be very helpful for them. And you'll learn new things too. This is why I love talking to people who are willing to go to school for a long period of time and do the PhD and these types of things, because learning doesn't bother you. It's one of those deals where, whatever is bothering me next, I will use learning to understand how to navigate that thing. And I think that if you can impart some of that on the people that you work with, you will have women entrepreneurs who are more prepared to secure the information and from the environment around them, who will be able to operate in courage and with integrity and say what they mean what they say, and run their own thing and direct themselves with confidence. And so, it sounds like there's some things that might
there's a
be
lot of
happening
similar
in the
hurdles to
future.
overcome,
Yes.
not just with veteran-owned businesses, but women. And having to overcome those with a smile, faking it till you make it. Taking your education, all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur and you have no money. People are already saying, hey, you're going to fail. 80% of all first-time businesses fail. I mean, you're literally taking this in. So a lot of things that you're talking about really correlate with the same emotions that entrepreneurs and starting out entrepreneurs go through. So that's what I was asking.
Transition veterans, it's a 50-50 blend, but some go into entrepreneurship and some go into employment. So,
And you said you're looking for those gaps. And when you said that, it was like economics. It's one of those. I mean, we need economic intelligence, and that's the when I say I work in software, that's literally what we're focusing on, is how do we fill those gaps. And you can't fill them all, but you can start one by one.
Yeah.
So
I struggled so hard and so long with working for myself, and that if you were to ask me what is my weakness, it's that I'm structured. Give me some structure and I'm in there. Most military folks work for police. They go where there is some structure, and I'm used to working where I work, but I know that I'm also helping people, because I would be okay if you were to contact everybody that I've had the privilege of serving. I treat people that I serve the way that I want to be treated, or better. I let them know they have to be good as me or better. And when I think about leaving that, it's like, ooh, not only am I not going to have a regular paycheck, but I won't have that.
Very scary.
I'm not going to have that structure. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to be required to get up every day. I'm not going to be required to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to be required. And not having that component of, I don't know if you can consider it dependency or independency, that scares me. And I know I'm not supposed to have the spirit of fear. I know that, guys. But it makes me a little nervous.
Well, I think the nice thing about having experienced these structures and done a lot with them is that you can create and replicate these things for yourself. I talk to people, especially in the financial side of things, about automating and putting themselves in the best position to succeed, right? You save proactively. You don't wait until the end of the month and see what's left and save. No, you save proactively and you handle the things that you need to handle. And you can create similar structure for yourselves, and you can teach other people how to do it because you have those skill sets as well. So I would encourage you to do those things that you know are in you, because you serve a guy who will have you in a car off the stage from graduation if you don't do it. Either that or in the belly of a whale. So if that's all you to push and move in those directions and you feel that tugging, I would encourage you to go ahead and respond to it and take those baby steps before you end up having to slide into it the way a lot of entrepreneurs do. Hey, it's just gonna happen if it's supposed to happen, right? So yeah.
We gotta wrap up. I'm gonna give Chris the last minute, but you said you had a podcast. I think you need to be spinning that back up.
Yes. So
Doctor's Corner.
I host a podcast called The Doctor's Corner, and let me just tell you where this was birthed from. 22 Kill, you probably heard of.
Yep.
It came from 22 veterans a day were killing themselves. And that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because we're so unique. So people, I was hearing things like, don't hire this veteran because they may go postal. It was heartbreaking. So I created a podcast called The Doctor's Corner, and I wanted to elevate the name veteran. So on the podcast, it's only veterans or doctors. And on there, I'm a nerd. I enjoy reading. Reading is still fundamental. I review books and critique books written by veterans. And I also talk to a lot of different businesses about the things that they are doing for veterans. That's how I learned about Service King. I even on the Doctor's Corner interviewed Sarah Compton, who is the general counsel for 22 Kill. So she talked about how 22 Kill was birthed from the Marines that birthed it. So if you get an opportunity, please type in The Doctor's Corner and you'll see me, and listen to a couple of the podcasts because it is veteran focused, it's literature focused, and just remember, reading is still fundamental. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is where we're going for.
That's it. All right.
I'm gonna let Chris close. We got a community announcement here.
Yeah, very important. The Operation Tiny House, in collaboration with YOUnion, is hosting a veteran job fair on June the 1st. That'll be a Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the address is 7225 University Hill, Dallas, Texas. So pass the word, spread the word. If they're gonna have free backpacks, writing resumes, the whole 9 yards. So come on out. And also,
Look at you. He's got a whole.
July 23rd, Operation Tiny House is also doing a lip sync battle. This is going to be a great opportunity to come out and show your skills. Cash prizes will be $500, $250, and $50 for the third place person. So come out and get your temptations on.
Yes.
Yeah, you might even get to sing one of these mics right here. But come out and have some fun and join in.
Lip syncing is
One
exactly.
more. There's also a celebration of Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks.
Also, which is starting Friday the 27th through Monday the 30th. There are going to be free hot dogs at the same location. All three of these events will be at the same location. So join in. We'll be giving more announcements. We got to close for now. And remember, this month is mental health awareness month. And those that may be in a struggle, there is help for you. Mm-hmm. Reach out.
Absolutely.
And I do want to make a quick plug real quick as well before you, because Kevin and I are also working on, along with Tiny House, homeless veterans reentry programs. And so I'm working with City right now. Margaret McMillan, who is awesome at City, as well as Kellen Odom, creating recruiter-based trainings for resume writing mock interviews. So next month we're going to start our first one in which we're going to have actual recruiters work with homeless veterans or just veterans overall that are seeking employment, and being able to speak to an actual recruiter who is boots on the ground in the trenches, understanding not only the job environment but the landscape overall, being able to give helpful tips, best practices. And so along with Service King, because Lakeisha and I'm sure she'll help me as well, but trying to make sure we provide as enough resources as possible where actual opportunities are being created. such as even Men's Warehouse. Men's Warehouse is working with me to start providing clothes, a dress for success. How do we start providing these kind of opportunities for people that may need their first day clothes or maybe an interview, suit? How can we help and make that realized? So that's all coming up next month in June. I know we'll be also be speaking, and T. Hulling will be here as well, hopefully.
T's got to show up. So,
At some point.
So the podcast
We need
was
you
the
to.
Doctor's Corner. I can email that to all of the guests. So thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
inviting
Thank you,
Dr.
guys.
K.
Hey,
Thank
yes.
you,
You all.
Dr. Loving.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you all in June. Thanks.